Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to today's live. This is the third live I've done this week, or that I'm in the process of doing this week. Today is the afternoon of Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. So it's 2/23/23. Um, it's been a busy Thursday for us. It always is. We had a class to go to today, which I'll mention later. So we're still in the middle of our homeschool day. Hope you guys are doing well as well. And I don't know if Thursday's the best time, or in the afternoons, or during even the school day are the best time to do a live. Since we're homeschoolers, right? And we've got to teach these kids and get done with our learning so that we can move on to other things. So I may have to change these times. If you have an opinion, would it be better to do it on the weekends? Would it be better to do lives on, like, in the morning, like during morning coffee, have a morning coffee and a little chat to talk about curriculum or any homeschool topic? So let me know if you have thoughts on that. But for today, let's go ahead and move into our content. I'm glad I caught that. I've got it set up weird somehow, so I think when I go to this screen, it goes to mute. I'm still trying to figure all this out. So I caught it. We're not on mute anymore, so that's a good thing. I'll have to figure that out after this. But anyway, today we're talking about my third graders homeschool curriculum choices for the current school year, which may seem weird to be talking about it now since it is February. So what's the point? And the point is that I thought it might be a better time now to, instead of not talking about it at all, since I didn't talk about this earlier on in the school year, I thought now might actually be a better time, because now I can tell you how it's actually going. How have my curriculum choices worked out? Did I make good choices? Did I make mistakes? And I can, spoiler alert, I did make some good choices and I did make some mistakes. So we can kind of talk through that. And I thought this might be helpful to you now, because coming up, maybe not February, but certainly March and moving forward, it's the time of year when we start looking at homeschool curriculum options for the next school year, right? When we're thinking about making decisions on the different topics, how to meet our kids' academic objectives. And so maybe now's the perfect time to talk about the curriculum I chose and then how it's working out. And I hope that helps you to make decisions for your kids, good, wise, thoughtful decisions for your kids for the next school year. I will say that I'm going to try not to go into reviews of the curriculum choices that I mentioned to you, because that will take forever. So instead, let me know if I mention a curriculum choice that you'd like to see a more in-depth review on. I'd love to do that for you. And in this type of format, a live format, I think I can come up with a good way to do that, where you still get to see the curriculum and while we're doing it live. And so let me know if there's something that you want to see more in depth, or you may want to look at the videos on my YouTube channel. I have a curriculum reviews playlist. You may find a review there already. But even the ones I've reviewed before, if you would like to talk about it in a live chat format like this, let me know and we can make that happen. Because I know sometimes what we see on the publisher's websites isn't all the information that we want. And I know some of the curriculum that I'm struggling with this year, it's because I didn't have anyone to ask questions of. And so I realized too late that it wasn't working for us. And so I would love to help you to avoid some of those problems. Also, even though I'm going to be talking about our curriculum choices, I'm going off, the choices I make are partly based on my local homeschool laws. And so hold on, let me put me on do not disturb. Okay. So the choices I've made are going to be based on our current homeschool laws and our local homeschool laws. So always refer to your local homeschool laws to know what you need to cover in your homeschool. You may need to cover specific subjects. You may need to spend a certain amount of time on schoolwork each week. Or each day. You may need to provide documentation which may affect the choices that you make. So I'm in a state that isn't very isn't highly legislated when it comes to that. Like, I don't have a whole lot of rules to follow. I have some rules to follow, but there are definitely states where they have a lot more to deal with when it comes to homeschooling. So be aware of that and always refer to your local homeschool laws. You can go to hslda.org, or like I'm in Texas, and in Texas you can go to THSC, I believe, Texas Homeschool Coalition .org, com, I can't remember which, probably org. So anyway, moving right along. The first thing I'll mention are my guidelines. I make guidelines for myself when I'm choosing homeschool curriculum, partly so that I can narrow down choices. If I have more than one choice I'm trying to decide between that both seem good, the guidelines will help me to narrow down those choices to the one that may be, according to what I've thought about ahead of time as what we're going to need as a family, and also for each particular student. It kind of helps me narrow that down to make one better choice. And also to help me to be more focused, more realistic about our homeschool choices. For example, there's a lot of curriculum out there and a lot of videos done about curriculum that's focused on doing group learning, and so many people say how like that's the best thing, that's what saves you time, and it's so fun and magical. That's not fun and magical for my family. I try to avoid homeschool curriculum that is done in a group setting. I've learned that the hard way, and therefore when I do see shiny new curriculum and people are being so excited about how awesome it is, I can look at my guidelines and be like, yeah, that's not going to work for us. And so it kind of keeps me level-headed when it comes to that. All right, so for us, also I'm not going to go too in depth into all of these guidelines. I have videos about them, about most, if not all of these, that I'll link below. And you can refer to those videos to learn more about how I make these guidelines. So for us, my family focus statement, in it, I determined that we need to be moderately structured. I have 2 kids that are on the autism spectrum in our family, and so we need structure for sure. One of my kids especially really needs a lot of structure that I define for our family, for him, and also structure he imposes on himself. That's what makes him happy during the days and weeks. So that's one of the things that makes him happy. And so we need to have structure, but I also like to have some flexibility. So if someone gets sick, if we decide to take some time off from schoolwork for a reason, whatever reason, we can do that. So I have things set up so that we're not so strictly structured that we can't do that. So that's one thing I have to keep in mind. Also, our family focus statement, I determined that this year I wanted this to be a year where we make time for friends, to either make new friends or deepen current friendships. And so I'm trying to keep that in mind when making curriculum choices, or I tried to keep that in mind with making curriculum choices. The way this affected our curriculum choices is that it helped me. First, I would think about, is there a way we could do this where it's a class or other people are involved? And I don't want to do that too much because then we can't be structured the way we need to be. But that is something I considered. Also, another way it helped me to make curriculum choices is to remember that we needed to just get things done. If we're spending all our time, if there's very little free time, we're spending so much time on school-related projects and activities, then we're not going to have that free time to spend with friends and get to know people and do outside activities. So that was an important part of our curriculum choice guidelines. Also, I determined I wanted to use a digital teacher reference system, which meant that I needed to find curriculum that curricula where I could purchase a digital form of that curriculum, or at least the teacher's manuals, so that I can import it into GoodNotes and see it on my iPad or laptop or computer or phone, whatever. So I wanted to be able to purchase the digital versions of the teacher's manuals. Also, for my third grader, I chose a weekly binder curriculum system for him. Probably going to move away from that next year. But for what that means for choosing curricula is that it needed to fit well into a binder, if at all possible. And also that the lesson planning is structured enough that I could do that. I could put a week's worth of schoolwork in that binder and it makes sense in the binder system. Okay, my third grader's his learning preferences, which include learning methods and social needs or social preferences, social setting, are listening and reading. So he learns really well. Like that gets his attention to listen. He's a very verbal kid, loves conversation. And so kind of talking back and forth and listening to the content, that helps him turn that gets his attention. And also he likes to read. He's always been a really good reader. And so reading works pretty well for him. And he's an independent learner. Like he's a super social kid, but when it comes to learning, I don't think he prefers to learn independently necessarily, but for learning to happen, he needs to have some independent aspects to it because his personality is independent. And that doesn't mean I'm not teaching him, but I try to work that in as much as possible. So I think about that when I choose curricula. And then I try to choose delights for each of my kids to smooth the way for learning and to hopefully help them incorporate these here and there if I can to make learning a little bit more fun or interesting for them and to get their attention. So my youngest, he's got a lot of interests. And so here's just some of them that I try to keep in mind. He loves animals, animal related stuff. He loves learning about animals, facts about animals. He likes science. He loves to create. He's not an artist. Like he's not interested in being an artist, but he likes to create. He's not a perfectionist, so he doesn't feel like he needs to do things perfectly. So drawing and things like that, crafty type stuff. He loves to sing. It's really taken after my husband that way. And he loves to socialize. Like he is my most social child. I say that he's like running for president. He gets to know somebody everywhere we go. He makes a best friend everywhere we go. And the most important thing for us, so I kind of cut it off here, but what it says is just get it done. It doesn't have to be magical. So I'm not looking for curricula that's going to give us a magical homeschool experience. What's magical to my kids is getting done so they can move on to do other things that they really want to do. And so I try to keep that in mind when choosing curricula. Okay, so about to go over the options. Remember, you can always ask me if you have questions. You can ask me in the chat right now. Hi, Jessica. Yeah, these social kids. I'm not social myself, so I don't know. I can't relate, but I try to understand that that's very much a need my third grader has. So anyway, you can always ask me questions here in the chat about the curricula, or just ask me to do another video at another time. I am planning to do a video about one of the curriculum options because someone asked in my fifth graders curriculum options live for a review, a more in-depth review about one of our options. So I'm happy to do that. I've got over here to the right, upper right-hand corner, you'll see some symbols, which is how I'll mark these curriculum options. If it's a smiley face, I chose that option because it incorporates one of my kids' delights. If it's a check mark means that was a good option. The plus sign, it means I had to add that. I wasn't planning to, but I had to add that later on in the school year because of reasons. The symbol is the little shruggy symbol. It means it's okay. It's getting the job done. I don't love it. Or it could mean that I'm still not sure how that option's working out. And the minus sign means it did not work out. That was a mistake. And I'll try to share why I thought it was a mistake. Okay, so starting off with math. So I'm doing Power Homeschool with my kids for several subjects this year. I chose this because, in the interest of getting it done, like I said in my guidelines, I just want to get it done. And Power Homeschool is an online homeschool option where kids can watch videos. You can set them up with different courses, and each course is video driven. So they watch videos, they do some learning, they have activities, tests, quizzes, all that are on this online platform. And so I chose that because I wanted to offload some of the teaching so that I'm not teaching all of my kids every subject, since they're all independent learners. If I'm going to teach my kids the subjects, every subject, like there's no time for that. So I thought this would be a way to offload some of that learning. And I marked it as, it's okay. Power Homeschool in general somewhat works out for my third grader because he is listening to the lessons. And that gets his attention. They also have like pretty cool graphics and stuff on certain videos and classes. But for math in general in the future, I really just don't want to do an online option. I think math is better with a physical workbook. So that's what I'm going to do from now on. So it's okay. It's getting the job done. Okay, thinking about time. So I have this here under math. This is from the Critical Thinking Company, and it goes over time concepts. And so I have it under math, but it's really kind of math and language arts. I also have it marked as extra because this is something that I chose to do on our easy weeks for filling in some possible gaps. But if we don't get to it, then that's fine. Or if it doesn't work out, it's not a big deal. So this isn't going to be a core thing that we do, just some little extra learning I'm adding to our school year during times where it's kind of easy breezy and where I'm not having to do a whole lot of teaching myself, but it may help fill in some gaps. And again, this one's going okay. We haven't gone into this too much so far. It's going fine. This one's more TBD. All right, so for money. So I realized that my third grader is still struggling with counting change. And that is something that, like just today, I saw that he was going over on Power Homeschool in his math course on Power Homeschool, but I wasn't sure how much was going to be covered in there. So I found this money app, and for kids to practice counting change, and I listed that on their schedules for our easy weeks. And I thought, well, if this doesn't work, then I'm going to have to, I've sat down with him one-on-one to practice it, but I thought, our time might be better used if he just did it on his iPad, if he could, on an app, and it's working out really well. It seemed like he liked the gamified version of this. And so I'm saying it worked out really well because like the app tells him it's timed and it tells him if he got it or not. And so it looks like he's getting it, but I do need to kind of go behind that and actually get some real physical coins and see how that is working. If it has improved how he counts change right in front of me, physical change, actual coins. Okay, for language arts, he's doing the language arts course in Power Homeschool, and it's supposed to cover everything, but language arts covers lots of things, and so I wanted something really just to cover like the literature concepts, reading comprehension, that type thing, and maybe some grammar. And so that's really what I'm using it for. It does cover other things, but I don't think it covers like writing and spelling. I don't think Power Homeschool covers it well. So I have other curriculum options that I'd already planned to use instead of those. And so it's going okay. I say it's okay because it is covering more than what I asked, what I'm expecting of it. And what I'm expecting of it, the literature concepts and all, that's going well. It's going fine. But I get irritated every time I see they've done he's done some spelling exercise or whatever, and it doesn't go well when I know he's kind of good at all that. I wouldn't recommend it for spelling and writing. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. So it's going okay for, what I'm expecting of it. For spelling, I'm using Spelling UC, the Wild Tales level. And this is a delight because this level gives copy work for all manner of animal facts. And he loves that. He's learned so much. He really, really takes in that learning. So I love that he is learning to spell. He's improving his spelling while also learning about animals. For me, I will probably just do that copy work and forget about it immediately. But for him, he really takes it in. And so I have this as a check mark because it's working out really well. And like I said, I'd planned to do this already ahead of time. And, I wasn't counting on Power Homeschool for spelling. And I'm glad because it wouldn't have worked out. Let's just say that. All right. For grammar, I'm using Editor-in-Chief with him, and he's doing this more on his easy weeks. And it's from the Critical Thinking Company. You can get a workbook, but I'm using the app instead. I think it's going okay. This is kind of a shrug thing. We're covering grammar more in our writing curricula, where in a more effective way, I think. But for now, this is going okay with the app. All right, for cursive, he's learning cursive this year, which he's been dying to do. He's been begging for it. And I don't know if he loves it now, but he was begging for cursive. And so I waited till this year to do it. And I chose the Script and Scribe program from Half a 100 Acre Wood, which I'm really happy with. It fits. I was able to buy the digital version of it. I printed out all the worksheets, and it fits. Well, actually, for him, my fifth grader printed out the worksheets and put them in his binder. But so that's one of the reasons I like this, because it's flexible. For my third grader, I'm having him do this on his iPad with an Apple Pencil, which has been really nice. He loves it. That makes it a little more fun for him. And he's kind of a destructive kid. He ends up tearing up binders and all sorts of things. So this showed me, I decided to try this just to make it more fun and to have one less thing to print out. But how much he's enjoying doing on his iPad showed me that I can maybe move him to a digital curriculum system next year. I'm hoping, because he does tear up like all the physical books and things. So he's just, he's just one of these. He's kind of careless, and clumsy like his mama. So this is working out really well. And I also just like the program. I love this Script and Scribe program. Okay. This is how I'd planned to do writing for my third grader this year using the Night Zookeeper program. I wonder if you've seen it. I saw so many ads for it. And it's an app. I guess you can do it it's a website. So I guess you could do it on a desktop or a laptop, but we've been doing it on our apps, on our tablets. And it's, I don't even know what to say about it. It's not what I thought it would be. I chose this because there's like a drawing aspect to it. They get to draw and make little animals, which he loves. There's the animal thing aspect to it where he can learn things about animals and also kind of invent his own. And there's little games in it. I mean, it's a neat program. My struggle with it is that, and maybe this is because I didn't find it, but I don't see a learning path in it. I struggled making this our primary writing curriculum. And I really tried for like a month to make it happen. I got an Apple Pencil so he could do his drawing on the iPad. I got him a Bluetooth keyboard so that they have prompts for making their composition so he could type on that. But, since he's just learning to type, that's an issue. And also he just wasn't responding well to the prompts. And then to top it all off, what I want is for him to log into it and for it to take him on a learning path like Power Homeschool does. And it doesn't do that. Not that I've seen. So I was having to be really hands-on with it, which I really wasn't wanting to do. So instead of making this our primary writing curriculum, I already paid for the year, which irritated me. I should have paid for the month. And normally that's what I would do, but I paid for the year. And so we're continuing to use it for the year as an extra thing. I have them do it just like once a week for fun. And so it's okay. You know, maybe it will work out for somebody else as a primary writing curriculum. I don't think it's sufficient, and not for me, not for us. So I ended up adding the Daily 6 Trait Writing from Evan Moore. And I ended up doing this for all of my kids because Power Homeschool's language arts program I didn't feel was sufficient for writing. And then Night Zookeeper I didn't feel was sufficient. And writing is super important. I think it's like one of them. It's right up there with math and reading as for what the importance of learning in our homeschool. And so I'm really happy with Evan Moore's Daily 6 Trait Writing program. I like that they learn some grammar in there, and they have a writing project every week. And I like the workbook version. I like that it's in a workbook form, and which makes sense really nice for a third grader. I like that I could get the digital copy of it so I can import it into GoodNotes. Like, I like everything about it pretty much. It's not sufficient forever. I don't think it's great for teaching how to do reports and all, but as far as there's a lot of other writing things to learn. And so for all those, I'm really happy with it. That's been a good choice. Okay, and assigned reading. This is another one of those things I had to add on. You know, the Power Homeschool Language Arts program does have reading in there, and which is good. You know, that's helping meet the academic objectives I have for him. But one of the academic objectives I have for all of my kids is just to read more and to expand their reading beyond the Minecraft books and graphic novels and all they read. You know, that reading's fine. You know, I let them read what they want as long as it fits within our values. But I also wanted them to read more books, to be a little more adventurous in their reading. One of the things I always loved was to go into the library, just walk around and see what's there. And my kids aren't like that for some reason. I don't know. They just don't. They're not real adventurous in their reading, and that's fine. You know, some people are like that. I like to read everything, and then there are people who like to read just what they like to read, and that's fine. But I thought I really need them to read something beyond what they're reading. So I curated a book list for each of them, including my third grader, a book list for him of books that I thought he'd enjoy. I really try to think about that, considering their delights, like for him, animals and that type of thing. And I just tell them, you know, you have to read 20 minutes a day out of the book that I assigned to you. And they don't have to do worksheets or anything like that, but they got to read the book. And that's been working out really well. I'm really happy with it. The reason I have a plus sign next to it is because I try to bribe them. Like at the beginning of the school year, I told them, hey, if you read and act like an approved book, and here's a list of books you can choose from, plus others you can go find other books. But if you read a book, not a graphic novel, not a short little picture book, but like a novel type book, and it's you know, a certain number of pages, then I'll pay you $1 for each book. And even that didn't work. So I ended up after Christmas putting this assigned reading on their daily list of work. And so that's what's happening there. But that's working out really well. They're really enjoying the books. And so it's exceeding expectations. Okay, so for social studies, good citizenship, that's one of the things we have to cover in our homeschool. And for my third grader, I chose for him to go through like the social studies course in Power Homeschool, because when I looked at it, you know, he's pretty visual and he likes to listen to stories and all. And it looks like it was going to do a lot of that, where it could show them almost like a virtual field trips and all. And he really loves that kind of thing. And so I chose that for him. And I think that's working out really well. I don't have any complaints about it. Okay, for science, I chose Alpha Omega for him. Now, Power Homeschool does have a science course, but Power Homeschool is secular. It's used in public schools and all, and under the name Acellus. And so for science, for social studies, I tend to somewhat prefer secular material curricula, but for science, I am a Christian, and I tend to prefer Christian curricula depending on the curriculum. And so we tried Alpha Omega this year, and what to say, like, I'm not loving it. I'm marking it with the symbol, the shrug, because it's somewhat getting the job done, and we'll finish out the school year. But I actually don't really like it at all. And this is the one that Alpha Omega is the curriculum that someone asked me to do a review on. And so I plan to do that next week. I'm not sure when, a live next week where we just talk about Alpha Omega. So be sure to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you get notifications, and maybe sign up to my newsletter so that you'll know when I'm going to be doing this live if you have questions about Alpha Omega, because it's not just the science I'm not loving. I'm using science for my 3rd grader, my 5th grader, and then their history and geography from my 5th grader, and it's all of that I don't like, and I have some very specific reasons and a lot of thoughts, and I'd be happy to share those with you in that live. Okay, so for Bible, so now we're moving into like the non-core things that we're doing in our homeschool. For Bible, he started off doing Louis Giglio devotionals, like the Indescribable and How Great Thou Art, and I think Wonders of Creation is the other one. So he's been reading through all of those for a while, and he finished the last one earlier this year, and he really loved those. Those are perfect for him because he loves science. He loves to learn about animals, and in these devotionals every day they have some kind of fact about science, or specifically about animals, nature, and then it's a devotional. So I think they're each 100-day devotionals, and it's something you can do independently. And for elementary school, this is what I prefer. I prefer this kind of thing for Bible learning, devotionals, and learning basic stuff about the Bible and about Scripture, the basic stories and all, really familiarizing themselves with that kind of thing. So he really loved that. But I had to decide what to move into next. So I decided to go ahead and get the ACE Bible reading program, the curricula, and it's working out pretty well. And it's real basic. This is from ACE. I think the website says School of Tomorrow. I'll have a link below. And it's basic. They read a little bit and then answer questions, and really that's what I want. He's getting familiar with Scripture, and it's real straightforward. I just wanted something super straightforward for him that fits very nicely in his weekly binder, and it does, and it's working out just fine. I'm happy with it. For electives, for Spanish, I saw that Power Homeschool has elementary Spanish, so I thought, let me go ahead and choose this. I thought it'd be perfect for him because he's such an auditory learner, and that really gets his attention. And when I've done like vocabulary cards type things for Spanish for him, he really picked things up so fast. He's such he can just listen to a show and memorize dialogue that he inserts into everyday conversation, which is kind of hilarious. So I thought this would be really perfect for him. I have the symbol, but it's more if we're looking at how far it is to the it's pretty good, or this is pretty bad. I have to lean to it's not great for him. So it's the shrug symbol because I'm continuing with it. It's not so bad that I'm dumping it. But it's not working out great. And I think the reason, which shocked me, and the reason is because it's like they're trying to do this immersive thing for Spanish where it's completely in Spanish, and he doesn't speak Spanish. And so, they repeat the same phrases. The idea is you kind of pick up what's being said, and you become to understand it, and your ear gets tuned to it. But it's just not working out. And it's a lot of vocabulary. I mean, words I've never heard. And it's just not working out. He's not enjoying it. And he's not learning like I thought he would. I understand the idea of immersing yourself in a language. That's how I learned to speak English when I was 5 or 6, mostly 5. But he doesn't get immediate feedback from this. When you're immersed in a culture that's speaking another language, you get feedback because you have to speak it, and they understand it or don't understand it, and you correct yourself. And that feedback is important when it comes to learning. And so the feedback in Power Homeschool is just doing the activities where, like, what is this thing? Vocabulary, words type thing. And so I don't recommend it. This didn't work at all for my 5th grader. I had to just get rid of it. He was so frustrated with it. But I'm continuing on with my 3rd grader because, he'll get something out of it, I guess, and it doesn't take a lot of time. So if it took a lot of time, I would have dumped it. But like a hot potato, I would have dropped it like a hot potato, but it's okay. All right, for social development, this is one of those things that Power Homeschool includes that doesn't count toward the number of courses that you're paying for in Power Homeschool. So I went ahead and decided to do it. You can choose whether or not to do it. It doesn't take a lot of time, so I went ahead and chose to continue with it. I'm not sure about it. I think I have the shrug symbol. I'm not totally sure about it. I'm keeping my eye on it because I wasn't real sure what they'd be covering. From what I can see, they're covering like emotional development type stuff. So social development and also emotional, like working hard and not giving up. And then there's the bullying stuff and that kind of thing. I'm keeping my eye on it to see if they're going to inject any currently controversial issues that some public schools include. And as long as it's not an indoctrination type thing, I'm okay with it. So that's what I'm kind of keeping my eye on. I don't want them indoctrinating my kids with things that don't fit our values. It's just all I can say, and our beliefs. So it's going okay. I haven't seen anything concerning yet. All right, for critical thinking, this is something kind of new I've never done with a 3rd grader before. But I saw this resource on the Critical Thinking Company's website and thought I'd go ahead and put it in there. Now, actually, I have done analogies with my oldest when he was in elementary, because that's something you get a lot in school, and realized that I wasn't really doing it in our homeschool. And so I thought, well, let's go ahead and do these think analogies. And it's been really good, actually, because I've seen some gaps that need to be filled in. This is one of these things that's filling in some gaps. And so I'm putting the check mark because it's my 3rd graders having to work at it, and really kind of having to, it's not something that's just, I'm only doing like a page a day, so it doesn't take a long time. And we're really just doing this on easy weeks. So it doesn't take a long time, but he's having to think about it. And sometimes he gets things wrong and we have to talk about it. So I am having to do a little more teaching with it, which is fine because it just shows me this is something that needed to cover. And so I'm happy with that choice. Okay, now for music. Music's important in our household. My husband has a music education degree. He taught choir in public schools for 12, 13 years. And I played band for many years. I played clarinet and band for many years in middle school and high school and a little bit in college. So this music is important to us. So we started off the year with homeschool piano. My husband had given my kids piano lessons last year, but I wanted to offload that from him. And since, like, in our guidelines, I put how I want to stay moderately structured. That was hard to do with my husband. Was giving them piano lessons because he wasn't, sometimes he was busy, like the day I scheduled for the piano lessons. Sometimes he was busy. He'd get home late, or they didn't know what time he was going to get home, and they were waiting around for him. And then sometimes that day won't work out, or he'd forget, or whatever. We weren't as structured as I wanted to be when it came to our piano lessons. So, and we're already doing like some other outside classes, and I didn't want to add another one. So I wanted an online version. of some online option for piano lessons. So I found Homeschool Piano on the Homeschool Buyers Co-op website, and they have a really good discount. So I decided to try that, and I had to dump it. And I guess I didn't have to. I chose to dump it. I chose to not continue with it. It's a better way of putting it, because I didn't love that it was. It seems to be somewhat focused on jazz, and and there's a big aspect of it that's learning improvisation, which is not what I wanted for my kids. I really just wanted them to learn some basic piano lessons. Because like I said in my 5th graders video, I don't care if they ever even play a full, like, long composition, musical composition. Like if they never play Fur-Elise, that's fine with me. I just want the other benefits of learning piano, learning an instrument in general. Benefits to, character benefits, learning to work at something and seeing improvement as you go. I wanted the brain benefits, like I wanted all the emotional benefits, all those things for them. And so I just didn't think I was going to get that with Homeschool Piano. It wasn't quite as structured as I wanted it to be. So I found another option, Hoffman Academy, and so I had to add this one later, a little, still at the beginning of the school year, but a few weeks in, maybe a month or two in. And I'm really happy with it. It is more expensive, but it's very structured. They just get their iPad, put there on the piano stand, and watch the video, do the lesson. There's even practice sessions incorporated in there. So they go to the Hoffman Academy website every day. It's video driven. And so he does little finger puppet things that my 3rd grader loves. He says he should have a YouTube channel just for the finger puppets. He just loves it. He says it's worth it just for the finger puppets. Also teaches solfege. I think it does a great job of teaching musical theory. There's worksheets they can print out. I highly recommend it. So I just did a little mini review of Hoffman Academy. I was trying not to do that, but I'm really enjoying that for my kids. Also, choir. So, like I said, one of my 3rd graders delights to sing it, and just performance in general. You know, he's my little performer, and he loves to perform. So he, in the summers, the past couple summers, he's taken part in these theater summer camps. It's like a week long, and they learn a little bit about acting and singing and some dancing choreography. Sorry, I'm distracted by what's going on outside the window here. So he's been learning all these different performance aspects, and then they put on at the end of the summer camp a little play and a little musical thing, which we love, especially my husband, because my husband, you know, he does have a musical theater background and even started his own theater company when he was in his 20s. So we're loving this for him, and my youngest really takes after him when it comes to all that. So he wanted to continue doing that theater type stuff, but I really wanted him to just focus on one discipline at a time. And so I found this homeschool choir program for him to take part of this year. We just go once a week, and they have choirs for different ages. And so he's in like the youngest, since he's 8. In the youngest group, and they have a couple concerts a year. They learn solfege, like they're learning to sight read, you know, all the things. And so I chose this because it's a delight for him. I'm putting the shrug symbol because there's something about it, and I'm having a hard time even defining what I'm not loving about it. And some of what I've defined, I maybe don't want to share on YouTube, on the internet. But I'm not loving it. Part of it is a scheduling thing. My oldest is also in a homeschool band program, and these two are on the same day but hours apart. And so it's one of those things where, you know, we live in the Houston area, so it's not like we live in a small town where we'll go to choir and then go home and then go to band and then go. No, it's like everywhere it's 20 minutes away at least. And so it's not worth it to go home in between. And so that creates a problem during the day, which I'm trying to make the most of. You know, we pack a lunch and we go somewhere, get some schoolwork done, but it is a pain. And another aspect of it is I don't know. I don't like the time of day it is. I'm not sure. I don't know. Part of choosing curriculum, you do your guidelines. There's the head part of choosing curriculum, the thinking part, the analytical part, where you've got guidelines and you have academic objectives you're trying to achieve and that kind of thing. But then there's like the emotional part, and that really hit me this year. I can tell you I regretted choosing this choir program the very first day because while my other two sons and I were waiting, we're in this room with the other families who are involved in homeschool choir, and it was super loud. People didn't watch their kids. Little kids are just running around and literally screaming, and I was a nervous wreck for the rest of the day. It was awful. And it was like that for a while, and it's calmed down some. And actually, I don't even go in there anymore because I feel like emotionally worked up. Like I clearly have sensory issues. But it was a problem for me. And so now I sit in the car with my older two kids as my third graders in choir, and then and wait for the class to be over. And so that kind of thing. So I don't know that I want to continue with it next year. So that's why I have the shrug symbol. I think it's going okay. But I'm not in love with it. So for next year, I'm going to look for something else, and maybe we will just join one of these standard theater programs and do things that way. Okay. Typing. He's really been loving learning how to type. I was using, I think, Typing Instructor for him last year. I wanted to switch it up this year. He's still in the beginning stages of learning. So we're doing Typing Club online, and that's working out okay. This is one of those things that's going to work for some and not others. My fifth grader didn't like it, so he's not using it, but it's working out just fine for my third grader. I actually I'd purchased him a Bluetooth keyboard to go with his iPad. So this is something he can do independently from me, even because he can just on his iPad go to Typing Club and with his keyboard do his typing. And so this has really helped make our days flow a little bit better. With Typing Instructor, I had to set it up for him. That was kind of a pain. All right, and this may be the final thing. So I have him in a PE class. This is a delight for him because I thought this might be a good way for him to socialize, and it turns out it has been. My third grader, he's not an athlete. He takes after me in that aspect. He's no athlete, and he's never going to be. He doesn't enjoy it at all, like that aspect of it. But he's my little chatterbox. He's in there talking. It was hilarious. Last Tuesday, I had to talk to him after PE because I noticed that they're in this unit where they're learning kickball, and it's like a real PE class taught by a PE teacher who's got a degree in it. I think he's taught in private schools and all. And so every month they do a different sport. And so they're doing kickball right now, which my third grader is not loving. But I noticed last Tuesday that he was out on the field when his team was on the field. And standing next to the guy guarding second base, and with his back, like my son had his back to the game and was just talking. And this is during the game. And he was just talking about Minecraft, just chattering away. And, the second baseman, he's an older kid and was real sweet and, responding while still paying attention to the game. I had to talk to my third grader and say, dude, you're supposed to be playing the game. You need to have your eyes on the ball and all of that. So it's not working when it comes to athletics, not because the class isn't a good class. It is a good class. But it is working as far as giving him this socialization time. He's made a couple of good friends in there. And, not every kid who's going to be in a class like that is going to make friends through it. My oldest, he goes for the athletics. And, he talks to people and all, but that's not a place where he's making friends. But my youngest, wherever he goes, he's going to make a friend. And so that's going really well for him. Let me know if you have any questions as we're wrapping up, and I'd love to answer them for you. So yeah, this is a check mark for us. I do have, just as a reminder, on my YouTube channel, I have some different playlists, curriculum choice playlists, different playlists for reviews of some of the curriculum options we've used in the past, and I'll continue to add to those playlists as um, as I review more curriculum options like the Alpha Omega review that I'll be doing next week, hopefully. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them right now. If not, we'll wrap up. Love for you to let me know if you have a preference for when to do lives. Are the weekends better? Are the evenings better? Or maybe before schoolwork starts, maybe during a morning cup of coffee, maybe that would be a good time to do it. I'm not really a morning person, but I can make it happen for you if I can suffer through that for you if that's something that will work better for you. So just let me know, and then I'll plan for the live next week to go over the Alpha Omega curriculum options that we've chosen this year. The science for third grade and fifth grade, and then the history and geography for fifth grade, and kind of my like the good and the bad, and why I'm not a big fan of them, even though I know they work well for a lot of people, just not for us, but explaining why it doesn't work for us. Maybe that's my reasons won't bother you at all. Maybe they will. I don't know. Just because something doesn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. But if you have more information, then you can make a good decision. So join me for that if you're curious about my thoughts about Alpha Omega and why it doesn't work for our family. And I don't see any questions, so I will go ahead and sign off. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in the next live. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Bye-bye.